There are men who earn good money and still feel powerless, not because they are failing, not because they are irresponsible, and not because they lack ambition. On paper, their lives look stable. They have a steady income. They pay their bills on time. They meet expectations. They do what is required of them. From the outside, everything appears controlled, but control is not what they feel. They wake up when the schedule tells them to wake up. They work inside rules they did not design. They slow down or speed up based on signals they don't own. They stop when permission runs out. Nothing is technically wrong, and that's what makes it confusing. Because nothing is breaking. There is no crisis, no collapse, no obvious failure. Just a quiet narrowing of options. This is the state many men live in without realizing it, because income creates a powerful illusion. Money coming in feels like progress. A steady paycheck feels like safety. Consistency feels like maturity. So men assume they are moving forward. But movement is not the same as control. You can move every day and still have no real say in where you're going. You can be busy without being in charge. This is where the confusion begins. Most men confuse being paid with being in control. But income is not control. Income is a signal that you are useful inside a system, a signal that your behavior fits expectations, a signal that you are predictable enough to plan around. Control is something different. Control is not about how much money arrives. It's about how many decisions you can make without asking for permission. Control is the ability to change direction without everything collapsing. Control is the ability to say no and absorb the consequences. And many men who earn good money cannot do any of that. They are dependent on schedules, dependent on approvals, dependent on systems they don't influence. Their income didn't make them powerful. It made them stable. And stability, when misunderstood, quietly replaces control. This is why the trap is so effective, because income solves short-term fear. It reduces anxiety. It removes immediate pressure. It makes life feel manageable. And once fear is reduced, most men stop questioning the structure. They adapt to it. They organize their lives around it. They protect it, even when that structure slowly limits them. This is why men with good income often feel stuck but can't explain why. They're not unhappy enough to leave, not desperate enough to risk change, not free enough to decide differently. They are comfortable but constrained. This video is not about earning more money. It's about understanding why income often creates the illusion of power while quietly shrinking your options. Because once you understand the difference between income and control, you stop measuring your life only by what comes in, and you start noticing what you are no longer allowed to choose. That awareness is where everything begins to change. The biggest misunderstanding most men have is believing that income automatically creates power. It feels logical. If someone pays you more, you must be more important. If your income grows, your influence must be growing too. But this logic collapses under pressure, because income does not measure control. It measures compliance. Income tells you how well your behavior fits inside a structure someone else controls. That's why income rises when reliability rises. Not independence, not authority, reliability. The system doesn't ask, how much do you understand? It asks, how consistently will you perform? How predictable are your decisions? How costly is it if you stop? This is why income feels deceptive. It rewards you for reducing friction, for following procedures, for respecting timelines, for staying inside defined limits. And the better you become at this, the more you are trusted. But trust inside a system is not the same as control over it. Trust means you are safe to depend on. Control means you decide what happens next. Most men never separate these two ideas. They hear raise and think freedom. They hear promotion and think authority. But many promotions increase responsibility without increasing autonomy. Many raises deepen dependency instead of expanding options. This is how income quietly becomes a leash. Not by force, not by threat, but by comfort. Because income solves immediate problems. It pays rent. It covers food. It removes urgency. And when urgency disappears, most men stop questioning direction. They settle into routines. They plan around the paycheck. They structure their lives to protect stability. And stability feels like success. Until it isn't. Until a man realizes that every major decision in his life requires approval. Approval to leave. Approval to change pace. Approval to take risk. This is when the truth becomes uncomfortable. A man can earn more money and still lose influence. He can become more valuable and less free. Because income rewards alignment, not ownership. It rewards those who keep systems running, not those who decide where systems go. And the more dependent a man becomes on income, the harder it is to challenge the structure providing it. This is why income feels powerful at first and restrictive later. It opens doors short-term and closes options long-term. Not because income is bad, but because income without control creates dependence. And dependence, no matter how comfortable, is never power. This is the part most men don't like to think about. Not because it's complicated, but because it's accurate. Income doesn't just support your life, it shapes it. Once money becomes predictable, your decisions start revolving around protecting it, not improving it, not questioning it, protecting it. You begin organizing your time around the next payment. You delay risks until things feel safer. You postpone change until the moment is right. And the moment rarely comes. Because income creates timing pressure. You can't leave when you want. You can't slow down when you need. You can't change direction without calculating loss. So you adapt. You compromise. You negotiate with yourself. Not because you're weak, but because you're responsible. This is how income binds you, not through force, but through obligation. Every fixed expense tightens the structure. Rent, bills, commitments. Each one makes income feel more necessary and control feel more distant. This is why men with stable income often feel trapped without understanding why. They're not imprisoned, they're conditioned. Conditioned to protect stability at the cost of flexibility. Conditioned to trade options for reassurance. And over time, this conditioning becomes identity. I can't do that. It's too risky. Now is not the right time. Not because it's impossible, but because income made hesitation rational. This is the silent cost no one talks about. Income trains behavior. It rewards those who stay, those who endure, those who adapt quietly, and punishes those who disrupt rhythm. This is why control erodes slowly, not in one decision, but in 1,000 small ones. Each time you choose safety over direction, each time you delay change for comfort, each time you accept limits you didn't design. None of these choices feel dramatic. They feel mature, responsible, adult. But together they form a cage, not a visible one, a functional one, and functional cages are the hardest to escape. Because nothing is technically wrong. Your life works. It just doesn't move where you want. This is the difference between being paid and being in control. Being paid keeps the system alive. Being in control lets you decide what the system serves. Here is the part most men never slow down enough to notice. Income answers one question very well. How do I survive? Control answers a different one. How do I decide? Most lives are built entirely around the first question. Pay the bills, maintain stability, avoid disruption. And there is nothing wrong with that until survival becomes the ceiling. Because a man can survive very comfortably while slowly losing the ability to choose. This is why income feels satisfying at first and restrictive later. At first, it removes fear. Then, it removes urgency. And eventually, it removes direction. Not because anyone is forcing you, but because the structure rewards staying predictable. This is the quiet trade most men make without ever naming it. They trade decision-making for reassurance. They trade flexibility for reliability. They trade long-term control for short-term stability. And the system rewards them for it. But reward is not the same as power. Power is not how much comes in. Power is how easily you can walk away without your life collapsing. Power is how much of your future you are allowed to redesign. If income were control, high earners would feel the most free. But many don't. They feel responsible. They feel tied. They feel careful. And careful is not free. This is why the question isn't, how can I earn more? The real question is, what does my income allow me to decide? And what does it quietly forbid? Because control isn't dramatic. It doesn't announce itself. It shows up in small moments. When you can say no. When you can change pace. When you can choose a different direction without asking for permission. And when you can't. Once you see this difference, you stop measuring your life only by numbers. You start measuring it by options. And that changes how you see everything. In the next video, we're going to talk about why stable income often keeps men small. Not poor, not unsuccessful, small in their range of choices. Because once you understand that, you stop chasing comfort and start questioning control.